You know you're intelligent. You can solve complex problems at work, give brilliant advice to friends, and navigate life's challenges with logic and reason. So why do you find yourself stuck in a relationship that drains your energy, questions your worth, and leaves you feeling more confused than loved? If this sounds familiar, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not weak or foolish. What you're experiencing has deep roots in how your brain works, how you learn to love, and how trauma can rewire our emotional responses in ways that feel impossible to understand. Today, we're going to explore something that might feel uncomfortable but necessary. We're going to look at why intelligent, capable people often find themselves trapped in toxic relationship patterns, what neuroscience reveals about emotional addiction, and most importantly, how you can begin to recognize and change these patterns. Let's start with something that might sting a little. That intense feeling you call love? Your brain might be confusing it with something else entirely. When you were a child, your nervous system learned what safety felt like through your earliest relationships. If those relationships were inconsistent, if love came with conditions, if affection was followed by withdrawal, your young brain made a crucial mistake. It learned to associate chaos with connection, uncertainty with caring. This isn't your fault. A child's brain is designed to adapt to whatever environment it finds itself in, even if that environment is harmful. Your nervous system developed what psychologists call an anxious attachment style as a survival mechanism. The problem is, what helped you survive as a child might be sabotaging your relationships as an adult. Here's what happens in your brain when you're in a toxic relationship. Every time your partner withdraws affection or creates drama, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your body goes into fight or flight mode. Then, when they return with affection or attention, your brain floods with dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals released during drug use. This creates what neuroscientists call an intermittent reinforcement schedule. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. The unpredictability of when you'll receive love or validation makes each instance incredibly powerful to your brain's reward system. Think about it this way. If someone gave you $1 every time you pressed a button, you'd press it when you needed money and stop when you had enough. But if that same button gave you money randomly, sometimes after one press, sometimes after 100, you'd keep pressing it compulsively. Your brain would become addicted to the possibility of reward, not the reward itself. This is what's happening in your relationship. Your partner's inconsistent behavior has turned your love into a compulsion. You're not staying because the relationship is healthy. You're staying because your brain has been hijacked by a neurochemical pattern that feels like love, but is actually addiction. But here's where it gets even more complex. You might find yourself trying to fix your partner, believing that if you just love them enough, communicate better, or change yourself in the right ways, they'll finally give you the consistent love you crave. This isn't really about them. It's about you trying to prove to yourself that you're worthy of love. Every time you try to heal or change your partner, you're unconsciously attempting to heal the wounded child inside you who learned that love must be earned through suffering. The cruel irony is that the more you try to control their behavior, the more out of control you feel. You become hypervigilant, analyzing every text message, every facial expression, every tone of voice, for signs of rejection or acceptance. Your nervous system stays in a constant state of activation, which your brain interprets as passion or deep connection. Let me share something that might shift your perspective. There's an ancient Stoic concept that can help you understand what's within your power to change and what isn't. The Stoics talked about 3 circles of influence. The first circle contains what you completely control. This includes your thoughts, your actions, your boundaries, and your responses to situations. The second circle contains what you can influence but not control, like how you communicate or the energy you bring to interactions. The third circle contains what you cannot control at all, which includes other people's emotions, choices, and behavior. Most of your suffering in this relationship comes from trying to control what lives in that third circle. You're exhausting yourself trying to manage someone else's emotional world while neglecting your own. Here's a question that might feel uncomfortable, but necessary. What if the person you're trying so hard to fix doesn't want to be fixed? What if their dysfunction serves them in ways you can't see or understand? What if your attempts to heal them are actually enabling their harmful behavior? This doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. But recognizing this pattern is the first step toward breaking free from it. Your brain has been conditioned to mistake intensity for intimacy, chaos for passion, and anxiety for love. Real love healthy love might actually feel boring to your nervous system at first. It might feel like something is missing because there's no drama, no emotional roller coaster, no constant need to prove your worth. But here's what real love actually looks like. It's consistent. It's calm. It doesn't require you to abandon yourself to maintain it. It doesn't ask you to walk on eggshells or constantly monitor someone else's emotional temperature. It doesn't make you feel like you're going crazy or questioning your own reality. I want to give you something practical you can start today. It's called the Pattern Diary, and it's going to help you see your emotional responses more clearly. For the next 7 days, I want you to notice and write down 3 things every time you feel triggered, anxious, or emotionally activated in your relationship. First, write down what happened, the specific situation or interaction. Second, write down what you felt in your body, the physical sensations like tension, rapid heartbeat, or that sinking feeling in your stomach. Third, write down what you did in response, how you reacted, or what action you took. Don't judge what you write. Don't try to change anything yet. Just observe. You're becoming a scientist of your own emotional patterns. After 7 days, you'll start to see patterns. You might notice that certain situations consistently trigger the same physical responses and behaviors. You might realize that your reactions are often more about your past wounds than your present reality. This awareness is the beginning of choice. Here's something the Stoic philosopher Epictetus understood over 2,000 years ago. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your partner's behavior might not change, but your response to it can transform everything. The second technique I want you to try is what I call the pause practice. When you feel that familiar surge of anxiety or the urge to fix, control, or chase after your partner's approval, stop. Take 3 slow breaths. Ask yourself, is this reaction coming from my adult self or my wounded child self? Your adult self can make clear decisions based on your values and well-being. Your wounded child self reacts from old fears and survival patterns. Learning to distinguish between these 2 voices is crucial for breaking free from toxic relationship cycles. Remember, healing isn't about becoming perfect or never feeling triggered again. It's about developing the capacity to choose your response instead of being controlled by your reactions. You might be wondering if this means you have to leave your relationship. That's not for me to decide. But I will say this. You deserve a love that doesn't cost you your peace of mind. You deserve a relationship where you can be yourself without fear, where your worth isn't constantly questioned or tested. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Your happiness doesn't depend on another person's ability to love you consistently. It depends on your ability to love yourself enough to demand the respect and care you deserve." The path forward isn't easy, but it's simple. Start by observing your patterns without judgment. Practice distinguishing between what you can control and what you cannot. Choose your responses from your adult wisdom rather than your childhood wounds. And remember, recognizing that you're in a toxic relationship pattern doesn't make you weak or stupid. It makes you human. The fact that you're watching this video means you're already taking the first step towards something healthier. What patterns have you noticed in your own relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the simple act of naming our patterns out loud is the beginning of changing them.